Here's our feature story of the day, the latest from Samson Mow, doubling down on his prediction that Bitcoin will hit $1 million per coin next year in 2024 in a matter of days or weeks after the approval of the spot ETF by the SEC. And we all know, big deadline coming up, January 10th. So let's break this baby down, shall we? And if you're just joining us, be sure to smash the like on the stream. I greatly appreciate that. So yeah, here's the headline. Spot Bitcoin ETF approval to propel Bitcoin to $1 million in days to weeks, says Samson Mow. And after this stream on YouTube for the uncensored podcast version, we're going to be on Rumble, and I'm going to be doing a live video reacts to this video of Samson Mow. But first and foremost, here's some of the highlights from the interview. I translated this a little earlier and quoting him word for word right here. The real rally is when we go to $1 million, and that is when the spot ETFs are approved and we have tens of billions, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars flowing into Bitcoin in a very short time frame. I'm talking about weeks or days. So that is the real rally. So there you have it. He's saying that the real rally is going to be after the spot ETF approval. Bitcoin can literally hit 7 figures in 2024. Now that is literally 6 years before Cathie Wood was anticipating the $1 million price target, which we commonly cover here on the show as well. Samson also recently tweeted, "It has come to my attention there are some Bitcoiners that don't think Bitcoin can reach $1 million in a matter of days or weeks after the ETF money starts flowing in. They're in for a pleasant surprise." Let me know if you agree or disagree with Samson. You know what I mean? Now, also, he recently shared in 2017, it took roughly 9 months for Bitcoin to go from $1,000 to $20,000. That's 20x, right, fam? Now, the block subsidy was 12.5. There was a lot more Bitcoin sloshing around on the exchanges. Mining was boiling the oceans, and there was zero institutional money coming in. That's right. There was no institutional FOMO back then. Now, 1,000 to 20,000, clearly 20x. And to go from 50,000 to $1 million is just rinse and repeat, another 20x. In fact, the local high we hit back in November is actually 69,000. So it could even be higher if we do another 20x. But what are your thoughts on that, fam? Now I want to read for you some of the math behind this prediction. And also, Samson Mow did another recent interview discussing that the SEC will likely approve all the Bitcoin ETFs at the same time. Like all of them, there's currently 13 apps in awaiting approval to be greenlit by Gensler and the SEC. But here's some of the math behind the prediction. I just read for you the actual tweet, ultimately projecting another 20x, which would take us to that $1 million price point. The Bitcoin analyst provides a mathematical breakdown supporting Mow's prediction. Payne's analysis emphasizes the rapid pace at which Bitcoin price can grow, stating, "People acting like Samson Mow are insane for his $1 million price call and forget how fast Bitcoin can happen, which is the exact mindset needed for such a thing to occur." Now, Payne details analysis begins with the fundamentals of supply and demand, calculating the new supply for the cycle, estimating 136,000 BTC for the current epoch and 656,000 BTC for the next, approximately totaling 792,000 BTC. This analyst also considers the potential sale of old Bitcoin based on this metric of the HODL waves, estimating that 15 to 20% of the old circulating supply could come up for sale as it did in the previous cycle. And in such an extreme scenario, if 20% of the old Bitcoin were sold over the next 4 years, this would amount to approximately 3.8 million BTC. And shout out to Look Into Bitcoin. Here you're looking at the Bitcoin 1+ year HODL wave metric chart, which shows that 70% plus of the Bitcoin has not moved in over the past year. So massive shout out to all my long-term hodlers. Another statistic, 91% of all Bitcoin hodlers are currently in profit and in the green. So you gotta love that. Now, other potential sources of capital. To achieve a $1 million per Bitcoin price valuation, the analyst argues that a total capital influx of roughly $4.5 trillion would be needed. He identified 2 major potential sources for this capital. Let's break it down, pointing to U.S. retirement savings, which total approximately $35 trillion. So a mere 5% reallocation from these savings to Bitcoin would amount to $1.75 trillion. Now, secondly, he considered U.S. corporate treasuries, which hold around $1 trillion. And if 10% of this were invested into Bitcoin, it'd add another $100 billion into the market. You also got to consider the multiplier effect, which we haven't even taken into consideration. Now, beyond these sources, Payne highlights several other factors factors to drive Bitcoin price to 1 million. These include the potential for further adoption of Bitcoin by nation states. That's right. We've been talking about Qatar. We've been talking about Iran. We've been talking about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, all doing deals in Bitcoin, as per what I just read for you out loud from the high priest, Max Kaiser. So if you factor all that, the sovereign wealth funds, the nation state adoption, etc., these are all more bullish catalysts. And yes, we have a halving in 4 months, ETF approval in a couple of months. So this can turn into fruition. Now, moreover, he pointed out to the possibility of the reduced supply of the old Bitcoin coming to the market due to the steadfastness of the current hodlers. The fact that an unprecedented number of Bitcoin are in the diamond hands, more of whom than ever believe in hyper-Bitcoinization narrative, could diminish that 20% hodl wave dip to 15 or even 10%. Now, you let me know your thoughts surrounding this prediction. He also talks about which countries are likely to adopt Bitcoin next as a legal tender. Let's touch upon this because this was an excellent interview. He talks about Panama, Indonesia, Argentina. We were just talking about Javier Milei, the new Argentine president. Indonesia has a massive population, probably over a couple 100 million people, something crazy like that. And then we got Panama, another country in Central America, not too far from El Salvador, just south of Costa Rica. I've been to Panama many times. I used to actually live in Costa Rica. And yeah, great place to be. Bitcoin is progressively entering into the political debate as well. We have a 2024 presidential election around the corner. We have RFK Jr. running as a independent. He is pro-Bitcoin and anti-CBDC. We have Vivek Ramaswamy running as a Republican who is pro-Bitcoin, anti-CBDC. And we also have Ron DeSantis, current governor of Florida, who claims to be pro-Bitcoin and anti-CBDC. So let me know who you feel will likely win this presidential election. But I want to get deeper into what he thinks about as far as the next nation state adoption of Bitcoin, considering that's his expertise. And he is working with so many presidents and leaders around the world that are looking to adopt Bitcoin. So he was asked here, do you see potential in Africa, especially on the mining side? And he says there is potential in decentralizing the hash rate and getting more of it into Africa. But he says Africa might end up building a significant chunk of the hash rate by creating new power sources. Now, when asked what is the most promising country in the future in terms of Bitcoin adoption, here's what Samson shared. I think there's a few. Panama is interesting. They don't have a central bank, so they can do something relatively quickly. There's one candidate that we have connections to, and if he wins the elections, then we can talk about Bitcoin. And as I said, Indonesia is also interesting. Ridwan Kamil is the governor of West Java, and I think he'll be running for vice president. He understands Bitcoin, and also we forget to mention Mexico. He understands the potential for mining to transform the country, so that's another big interesting place for us to look at. And I think Argentina is also one because of El Loco, Javier Milei. I think there will be challenges afoot, large-scale challenges, and we have to direct that change towards Bitcoin. I think he is going to dollarize, but we want him to dollarize and Bitcoinize. Preach. So there you have it, my crypto fam. What are your thoughts surrounding the one and only Samson Mow projecting the Bitcoin price can hit $1 million per coin within days or weeks after the Bitcoin spot ETF approval by the SEC? Let me know your thoughts in the comments right down below. And to watch the recent interview he did with Cointelegraph entitled 1 million Bitcoin price prediction for 2024, check the show notes below the video in the description. And don't forget, after the YouTube stream ends, we shall continue with the uncensored version of the show here. We're going to be doing a live react session to this 10-minute interview with Samson Mow and his $1 million Bitcoin price prediction.